Hello, everyone. Welcome to Manta's Small Business Expert Webinar Series. My name is Ivy Lamb, and I'll be your host for today's event, Solutions for Success, How to Build a Small Business That Works. Building a successful small business takes time and careful planning. Today's guest and sponsor, Melinda Emerson, has dedicated her career to ending small business failure, and we're happy to have you with us today as she shares some essential tools for those who are thinking of starting a small business or who already own one. Before we dive in, I want to cover some important housekeeping items about this event. During the webinar, you should see a slide area, which will allow you to view the webinar. You'll also see 3 tabs: Ask a Question, Attachments, and Rate This. Click on the Ask a Question tab to submit a question at any time during the webinar. We'll do our best to respond during the Q&A at the end of the event. Under the Attachments tab, you'll find more resources and educational materials related to today's topic. Go to Rate This to leave us feedback on the presentation, and you can tweet about today's event using the hashtag MantaExperts. If you're having technical difficulties, please email webinarhelp@manta.com. and we will do our best to help resolve whatever issue you're having. Now, I'm excited to introduce our guest expert today, Melinda Emerson, or Small Biz Lady. Melinda Emerson is a seasoned entrepreneur, professional speaker, and small business coach who develops audio, video, and written content to fulfill her mission to end small business failure. As the CEO of Quintessence Group, Melinda educates entrepreneurs and Fortune 500 companies on subjects including small business startup, business development, and social media marketing. Forbes magazine named her the #1 woman for entrepreneurs to follow on Twitter, and she is also the best-selling author of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, a month-by-month guide to a business that works. Today, she's going to discuss the reality of what it means to become your own boss, the structured planning system she's developed to help small business owners, and some of the personal and financial aspects you'll need to consider when starting a small business. She'll also share some of the most common reasons small businesses fail and how to avoid making the same mistakes. And just as a reminder, you can submit a question anytime during the presentation, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the webinar. Now I'm going to hand it over to you, Melinda.
Thank you so much, Ivy. I am so excited to be here with you all today to talk about my favorite topic, how to become your own boss. So Ivy just walked us through the agenda, but here's what I want to do. I just want to remind you what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, we're going to talk about what's really involved in starting a business. I'm also going to walk you through life planning because it's my belief that the life plan comes first. Then we're going to talk about where you're going to find the money to start your dream business. We're going to walk through the pitfalls and the reasons why small businesses fail. And lastly, I'm going to leave you today with an action plan for success. Does that sound good? I hope so, because that's why I'm here. The first thing I want you to do, and I know that this is a virtual webinar, but I want you to read this out loud. When you are an entrepreneur, you kill for your dinner every day. Now, I always start this presentation out with this slide because I want to make it super clear what is involved in starting a business. Listen, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that is what it means to run a business. It is not for everybody. It's not even for the faint of heart. And so if you're not prepared to do that and you don't really internalize and understand that, you might need to keep your job. So now let's talk about the system that I have developed to walk you through starting a successful business. First of all, I want to share with you all that I have been in business for 17 years. I started my first business when I was 25 years old. So I have been there, done that, and I have learned all of the expensive lessons. So I now write books and blog posts and do media interviews talking about small business because I rarely hear bad business ideas. But most people have absolutely no idea how to run a business. They're just good at this thing that they're good at. So I want to help you start your dream business with a plan. So that is why I have developed the Emerson Planning System, which is featured in my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. And I have a special surprise for you all later so that you all will have an opportunity to get some free chapters of my book so that you can sample it for yourself. Now, the first step in the Emerson Planning System is developing a life plan. It is my belief that you really need to figure out what you want out of life first, and then build a business that is going to help you live your dream life. You should not start a business just because you just lost your job or you hate your job, because really the issue might be you just need another job or you need a better boss that's not a jerk. So I really want you to get super clear about how you live and how you really want to live. And then you need to find the right business idea that's going to help you generate, frankly, the kind of money that you want to make to be able to live how you want to live. The second step in the Emerson Planning System is developing your financial plan. Listen, guys, the money to start your business is going to come from your right or your left pocket. So we're going to talk later in this presentation about where to find the finances to launch your dream business. Then I want you to think about your business in step 3 from the standpoint of looking at your business concept. But here's how I want you to look at it. I want you to look at what skills you have and then what skills you need to run your particular business. And this might require you working part-time in a business like the one you want to start so that you can really get your arms around what it's really going to take to run and launch and run this business. The fourth step in the Emerson Planning System is developing your marketing plan. I want you to figure out who your paying customer is. Because, listen, if the answer is everybody is your paying customer, the answer is nobody is your paying customer. So I want you to get really granular and really specific about who your niche target customer is. And then I do believe you need a business plan. That is step 5 in the Emerson Planning System. Now, do I think you need a 40-page manifesto? No. Do I think you need 10 really good solid pages that are going to describe for you how your business is going to run, how you're going to get the phone to ring, what happens when the phone does ring, how you're going to ship it to the customer? I do think you need to walk through those fine details so that you really know what you're about to embark on. And then lastly, I am a big proponent of people becoming side hustlers first. Step 6 in the Emerson Planning System is to launch your business while you're still working. I do not want you to start your business. I don't believe in people quitting a job to start a business. That's insanity. First of all, it takes 12 to 18 months for a small business to break even, let alone replace your corporate salary. So you need to learn on someone else's dime as long as you can. And my great suspicion is that many of you are starting service businesses and internet, e-commerce businesses that you clearly can do in your evenings and weekends, unless you're starting a retail store or you're starting a business that directly competes with your day job. I believe that you really don't need to quit your job just yet, or certainly not until you're making real money. So let's talk about what you really have to have in place in order for you to really move forward with your business idea. Number one, you need to make sure you have a solid business idea. Secondly, you need to figure out whether or not you can afford to become an entrepreneur. Because let me tell you something. If you've got, a $3,000 or $4,000 mortgage and 2 brand new cars outside, your lifestyle is a little bit fantastic, and you may really not be able to afford to become an entrepreneur. So you really need to evaluate, whether or not you can recoil your lifestyle a bit so that you can start, affording your entrepreneurial habit. Because, it will feel like an expensive hobby at first until money starts being generated. And then you've got to be really honest with yourself and decide whether or not you really have the energy and the discipline to do this, because you have to be really, really self-motivated in order to launch a successful business. Now, let's talk about what you need to start. I bet all of you are like, I need customers, I need money, well, listen, I believe that you need a 12-month plan in order to start. I believe you should be planning your business at least 12 months before you launch it, because there's so many things that you have to have in place. And what's really funny is, as the small biz lady, the number one question that I get asked is, why does it take 12 months, small biz lady? And so now I'm going to walk you guys through just a few of the reasons why it takes at least 12 months to launch a business. Number one, you need to know what your business is. You do not need to start a business that you don't know anything about. So you may need time to build up your industry experience. You also need to nurture your network. The last thing you want to do is call a friend that you haven't talked to in 3 years and tell them about how they could do business with you, or how they could sell for you. You want to make sure that you nurture your relationships long before you need them. You also need to make sure that you have exceptional credit. And we're going to talk about what exceptional credit is. And let's say your credit isn't the best right now, that it may take you 12 months or more to clean your credit up. You need to make sure that you are financially positioned in order to launch your business, because again, the money to launch your business is going to come from you. And people who have savings have options. So it is extremely important that you're financially sound before you launch your business. And I'm going to walk you through what that looks like later on in this presentation. The other thing I need you to do before you decide that you are going to go into business is really validate that there's a market for your product or service. Sometimes we fall in love with our idea, and our mom thinks it's great, our best friend thinks it's great, and that's all the market surveys that we do. That's a mistake. You need to make sure that you take the time to test the marketplace and look out there and see if you have any competition. A lot of times entrepreneurs scare me when they come up to me at a networking event or at a conference I'm speaking at, and they say, oh, well, there's no competition for what I do. Bull. There's always competition. And by the way, you guys, competition is a good thing, because if there's competitors in the marketplace, that actually means there's a market for your product or service. So the thing you've got to evaluate as you're thinking about making this transition from being an employee to being an entrepreneur is, how well are you known? Do you have a sales job where you're always in the field, or are you somebody that is more known internally? You've got to evaluate where your network exists. And if you're an internal person, then you got to get out there and start beating the street and going to networking events, because your network is your net worth when you start out in business. So you want to make sure that you are building a network that can be valuable to you beyond your day job. And so it's going to be very important, particularly if you're not a people person or you're not somebody that likes to network. You're going to have to get out there and force yourself to do it, because your network is the second most important thing you have to have behind a good business idea. Now, let's talk about all of the things you need to have before you start. So we've already talked about, obviously, you've got to have a solid business idea. You most definitely should have industry experience. Please don't start a daycare center because you heard those kind of businesses make a lot of money and you don't have any kids and you don't like kids. Please don't do that. Do not start a bakery because you like to eat, right? I want you to know something about running a bakery. So you've got to get you some industry experience before you go into business. And earlier I talked about the fact that you need exceptional credit. And let's talk about what that really is. That is a credit score of 750 or higher. That is what you need to have. And the reason why is because you are your business's credit when you first start out in business. So it is extremely important for you to protect your credit. And also, you've got to make sure that you're not walking around with big balances on your credit cards. And the reason why is because you may need to use your credit capacity to launch your business, because banks do not loan money to start up businesses, ladies and gentlemen. So the money to start your business, the first year of working capital for your business is going to come from you. So you've got to make sure that you've got access to resources so that you can launch your business. So for example, let's say you only have one credit card. If you still have a really good full-time job, I would apply for 2 more with limits of at least $5,000 or higher, so that you can put yourself in a position to be able to use your credit cards in your business as your business is starting. But, starting a business when you're carrying a bunch of credit card debt is crazy. Now, listen, if you have a mortgage, you have a mortgage. You're not going to be able to pay off your mortgage before you launch your business. You might not even be able to pay off, student loans if you have exorbitant student loans. But any other debt, like silly credit card debt and things like that, forget about it. You need to pay that stuff off. If you have a car, pay your car off. If you get a bonus or something like that, you need to get yourself down to bare bones bills. And that's what's going to be really important for you, so that you can financially prepare to do this, because it is more than a notion to think about transitioning away from your job to run your business full time. So those are the things that you need to have from a, financial standpoint and business standpoint. But I also want to talk to you about what you need to have personally. And the number one thing you need to have is a supportive spouse or partner. Listen, if the person that lives with you, the person that loves you, doesn't support you, you're in trouble, because you're going to hear no far more than you're going to hear yes. And if you're also getting a bunch of static and stress at home about what you're doing with your money and your time, you might not make it, because that is a very, very difficult position to be in. You also want to make sure that if you have kids, or let's say your mom is somebody that you talk to as your number one advisor, got to get family buy-in, because your family can become your biggest saboteurs. So, for example, if you're somebody that has teenagers, and all I know is my friends that have teenagers tell me every time they turn around, their kid's hand is in their face asking for $20 to $50. Well, I think it's important to sit down and have a family meeting and talk through, hey, mommy's getting ready to start this business, and I'm going to need all of you guys' help. And I will tell you, I have a 10-year-old son, and I explain to him what I do. He knows I'm the small biz lady, and I give him little odd jobs in my business, and I pay him a few dollars, but I help him understand why mommy works so hard. And then the other thing I do is, when I do special things for him, like take him to Disney World for his birthday, I explain to him how I had the money to do that, so that he understands why I'm working so hard or why I'm working so late. Because your kids can sabotage you just as well as a negative spouse. So you want to get everybody's buy-in. But one of the things you have to do to get that buy-in is to give your spouse or partner a realistic timeline for how long you're going to chase this business. Now, listen, I already told you guys it takes 12 to 18 months for a business to break even. That's not profitable. That's just barely covering the bills of the business. And that's probably not at the point where you're going to be able to take a salary. So typically, it's not until year 3 that you're really able to take a regular salary from your business. And I would give your spouse or partner a specific timeline. Now, you got to be careful with this, because your sweetie is going to hold you to the date you give them. So give yourself 36 months to get your business together, and tell them if it doesn't work after 36 months, you'll hang it up. You'll figure out something else, because you need to get their buy-in, but you need to know they're scared. They're skeptical. They're worried about, potentially one salary leaving the household. So if you know that you're married to somebody that's highly risk averse, I would come at them like they are the bank. I would have a slide deck. I would have facts and figures. I would come at them with your business plans laid out, so that they can really have all the data to make a decision to support you. The fourth thing you're going to need to have is a kitchen cabinet of advisors. And this is 5 people that are already invested in your success. That's going to be really a confidential sounding board for you as you launch and grow this business. So the first person in your kitchen cabinet should be somebody who's already in business, somebody who's been there, done that. The second person in your business should be somebody who is a customer or a potential customer. You want that person who's going to be the internal advocate for you, to really give you the skinny on what your real budget is, so that when you submit a proposal, you're on point and you know what you need to do to close the business. The third person in your kitchen cabinet should be someone who is a mentor. And if you don't have a mentor, there is a wonderful organization called SCORE, and their website is score.org. And you can get a mentor to work with you face-to-face, depending on what city you're in, or they actually have resources online that you can reach out to a mentor online to get help with your business. And it's free, guys. So this is an incredible resource. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we have an amazing SCORE chapter here, but there are fantastic SCORE chapters all across the country. So definitely lean on SCORE as a resource. And the fourth and fifth people in your kitchen cabinet should be someone who is an attorney and someone who is an accountant. Now, if you had the opportunity to go to college, 9 times out of 10, you know somebody who's a lawyer and you know someone who's an accountant that you went to school with. So lean on these people. Now, the thing that I want to tell you is the reason why I call this group of people a kitchen cabinet of advisors is because these people will work for food. They are not going to send you a bill every time you call them and ask them for advice. But you do need to be careful, because if you ask these people for advice and then you don't take it, you can destroy a relationship. So you have to use this group of people wisely. And I find it helpful to get this group of people together in person 2 to 3 times a year. You'd be amazed how the people mentoring and helping you might like to meet the other people that mentor and help you. And who knows, they might network with each other. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is really what the elements of a small business is. So obviously you have the legal aspect of your business, which is how your business is incorporated. I do not believe in sole proprietorships. That's a great way for you to get sued and lose everything. So you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to be an LLC or an S corporation, but you do need to incorporate your business. Then you need to have an accounting system. The best way to do this is with accounting software. You can use, FreshBooks, Xero, QuickBooks, whatever, but you need to make sure that you have accounting software set up in your business so that you know how much money is coming in and going out. And then you have to think about the things that you manage, right? So what do you manage in a business? You manage people, you manage money, and you manage your brand. So that's the management side of your business. But then you have what I call your business practice, and that is your operations, your banking relationships, and your processes. And the processes are really the intellectual capital in a business. And you want to make sure that from the very earliest stages of your business that you make your business process dependent and not people dependent. You want to make sure that you can bring people in to help you. And you're not going to be able to do that if you don't document how you want things to be done. So it is very important for you to have strong processes in your business. Now let's talk about what skills, often I'm asked, well, what does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? Well, I don't really know, but these are some of the common things I see in people that I know that are highly successful in business. Number one, you've got to have vision. And you've got to be able to communicate that vision to the bank, to potential employees, to your customers, even to the interns. You have to have a big picture vision for where you want your business to go. You also have to have leadership skills, because everyone is going to do things based upon how they see you do things. So if you're a poor leader, you're certainly not going to attract any strong leaders. So you have to make sure that you do things to always sharpen your own leadership skills in your business. You got to have business experience. I cannot stress this enough. Please do not start a business you don't know anything about. I certainly know that you can start a franchise and they'll train you how to run the franchise, but you still got to know how to look at an accounting balance sheet to make sure your business is making money. You also have to have a sacrificial attitude. So what do I mean by that? Well, you need to understand that there will be a day in your business where you have to pay your employees and won't be able to take a check yourself. And you know what? Your employees shouldn't be able to know that day from any other day. You can't walk around throwing paychecks at people because you're mad because you didn't manage your cash flow well, and you're not going to be able to take a check yourself. You always got to stay upbeat. You have to be the chief optimism officer, right? So you have to always have high energy and optimism, because honestly, that's confidence. Optimism and high energy is your full belief in your business. I do think you also need to have a competitive attitude. Now, the reason why I say you have to have a competitive attitude is because you have to be willing to charge your price and not waver. There's no hookups and humbugs. You need to make sure that if your price is $20, it's $20. It's not $17 for her and $13 for this guy that beat you up on price. You've got to have the confidence to charge what you're worth and demand that money. And that's what I mean by a confidential attitude. You got to be self-confident, right? Because everybody, dogs, children, everybody can smell fear. So you don't want to wear that cologne. You've got to make sure that you dare people not to hire you, right? Now, you do not want to come off arrogant, but you want to be confident. And to me, that's arrogance under control. So make sure that you lead with your confidence, because to me, that's 90% of any sale is your belief in what you're saying. You got to be strategic. You got to be strategic with your time. You got to be strategic with the clients that you take early on, so that working with them will help you get more clients. And you've got to be strategic about the things that you lend your name to and your time to. So even in the volunteer things that you do, you need to be really strategic about that, so that you can make sure that you are not wasting any time, because time is currency to an entrepreneur. You got to be focused. There's so many bright, shiny objects out here that people will send you emails all day with opportunities to spend money. You need to make sure that every day you work on your top 5 agenda and not anybody else's. And you got to have strong interpersonal skills. If you don't like people, starting a business is a bad idea. You better get a partner that loves people and loves to sell, because the people part of a business is what keeps a business strong. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you guys about is entrepreneurial, how many different jobs you how many jobs you have as a startup business owner. And so let me just walk you through some of them. First of all, you are the chief sales officer. Nobody is going to be able to sell in your business better than you. And matter of fact, nobody should be able to sell in your business better than you. But the other thing is that you get to write the letters, you get to put them in the envelope, and you get to take them to the post office too. So you're your own secretary now. Until you can get to the point where you can hire yourself some staff, you got to do your own, letter writing and managing your own mail. You also are your chief business planner. Don't hire a consultant to write your business plan. Write yourself so that you know what's in it, so that you can think through what's going on with your business. You are the R&D department, right? So any kind of market research or, line extension types things you want to do, that's on you until you get big enough to have people to help you. You got to be your own technology expert. If the printer breaks, there's no IT department to call and come fix it. So either you got to be really nice to the IT people before you leave your job to see if they'll swing by your house on their way home and fix your printer, or you better learn how to fix some stuff yourself. But I got to tell you guys, YouTube is the most amazing thing in the world to figure out how to do something yourself, because there's a how-to video on YouTube for everything. You also are your own bookkeeper, right? You get to sign the checks on the front and the back. So you have to keep up with the people who you owe money and the people who owe you money, right? So it's very important for you to understand your finances very early on in your business. And even if you have a payroll company, you still got to keep track of everybody's hours and call it into the payroll company. So you get to be the payroll manager too. And for those of you that already have employees or people that report to you in your jobs, you already probably understand this role of HR manager / therapist. And I have to tell you, employees is my least favorite thing about owning a business. Sometimes I wish I had a business that I could just do everything myself, but it doesn't work that way, because I only have 2 hands. And in order for you to really make money, you need 4, 6, 10 more hands. So you've got to make sure that you put HR practices in place that are smart, and that you don't hire when you're desperate or you have an urgent need, but that you're able to have a thoughtful process in place for how you're going to hire people. And nowadays, it's not an option not to do social media, so you got to figure out either you're going to learn how to do social media yourself or you're going to pay somebody to do it, but somebody's got to be doing social media marketing for your business. And lastly, and probably the most important job that you need to have in business, is bill collector. You have got to get your money. And everybody thinks they can pay a small business late. So you want to make sure that you know clearly up front what your customers' payment terms are, because you want to make sure that you get paid on a timely basis. Otherwise, you are going to have, a crisis every week with payroll or cash flow because you're not being paid on time. Now, true or false? Most small business owners don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. What do you guys think is the answer to this one? True, all day, it's true. So I'm here just to give you guys a few pieces of information so that you will have a plan for success. Success is not going to just happen to you. You do have to create a plan. And I also want to let you guys know that I am going to take questions at the end of this presentation. So if you have any questions, please go to the questions from the audience box and put a question or two in there. And we definitely are going to have 10 extra minutes so that I can answer your questions at the end of this presentation. Now, I want to talk to you guys about why some small businesses fail, because it's the saddest thing in the world to me that 8 out of 10 businesses go out of business by year 3, but it is really a fact that that happens. So I want to talk to you guys about why this happens so that you guys can avoid this going in. The first reason why small businesses fail is because really people fail to think through their life plan. So what happens is people start a business, and it might even be a good business, but it's not a good business for them or their family. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to be a caterer and you want to specialize in weddings. Well, if you have small kids that have a bunch of Saturday activities, being a wedding caterer is going to be a nightmare for you, because either you got to have a wonderful spouse who's going to pick up all the kid taxi service, or you're going to tie up every single weekend so that you don't have a life. So you just got to think through what your dreams are going to cost you personally, and that is really important. The second reason why small businesses fail is because people have no network to sell to. It is astonishing to me how often people with no friends will start a business. It is actually amazing. And I think that you want to make sure that you nurture your network long before you need them, and just follow the golden rule, right? If you want friends, you must be friendly. So you want to make sure that you're a good friend so that your friends will rally around you, because 90% of all small businesses get business from referrals. So if you don't have any friends, you are in trouble. The third reason why small businesses fail is because people spend so much time chasing new customers that they forget to nurture their existing customers who already like them. It is much cheaper to keep a customer than it is to go out and get a new one. So focus on keeping your customers, great customer service, ongoing communication, email campaigns. You got to make sure that your customers remember you because you really appreciated them. The fourth reason why small businesses fail, and this is probably one of the most common, is people chase everybody that they think has money as opposed to having a specific niche target customer. If everyone can use your product or service, no one will, I promise. So you've got to make sure that you become a specialist in whatever it is you do. Think about it like this. Who makes more money, your cardiologist or your primary care physician? Well, a lot of the cardiologists I know drive Ferraris. So you want to make sure that you are the cardiologist of your industry. And then lack of fiscal discipline is a very, very common mistake that I see people make. You must manage your household with a budget, because if you manage your household with a budget, you are far more likely to manage your business with one. And successful businesses are run based on up-to-date financial information. So you must stay on top of your numbers, and you can't let your fear of math be the reason why you don't know what's going on in your business financially. You need to know how much profit is in every sale. Now, I told you all earlier that I was going to give you guys a great opportunity, and I love to give away free stuff, so I'm going to give away something right now. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to download 2 free chapters of my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. And if you guys get these 2 free chapters and you get on my list, I got some other free stuff for you. So if you guys go and jump on this, you're going to be very, very happy. The other thing, too, is if you, for some reason, can't see this or it doesn't come through, if you go to my website, succeedasyourownboss.com, right in the header on my homepage, you can download the 2 free chapters there as well. So I want to encourage you all to make sure that you get this, because this is just a great resource. And then hopefully if you like it, you'll go on Amazon and buy a full copy for yourself. Now, let's talk about life planning. Really, life planning is all about clarifying your personal goals and dreams, figuring out what kind of lifestyle you want and what you will and won't do. The most important thing about a life plan really is about making sure that your business fits your personal goals and ambitions. Now, one of the things that you've got to do when you're thinking through your life plan is just answer some key questions. How much do you plan to work? A lot of people think they're going to start this business and somehow they're going to have extra time. Well, that's not really true, because in a business, Your business owns you for the first few years of a business. You don't really own your business. So you've really got to think that through. You also need to think through your work style. Is day-to-day variety important to you? How much money do you need to make to be happy? That is a really, really important question you need to ask. And then, do you need to update your technology skills before you launch into this business? That's another really key skill key thing that you want to think through. Now, I have developed a life planning journal, and if you go to my website, succeedasyourownboss.com, you can get some information about how to get my life planning journal, but it is 76 pages that will help you have a quality conversation with yourself so that you can figure out this thing we call life. And here's the deal. The reason why life planning is so important and why I talk about it so much is because a lot of times if you don't have a life plan, chances are you're working on somebody else's agenda and not your own. So plan your success. It is very, very important. I wanted to show you guys, once you develop your life plan, it's very important for you to also develop a vision board. This is my very first vision board that I ever put together, and I put it together in 2007, right when I started working on my first book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. And at the very beginning, I knew that I wanted to be America's #1 small business expert. But it wasn't Googleable and true, you guys, until about 2009. But I claimed it years in advance. So you want to think through your big picture vision for your life, and then you want to put the plan in place to work backwards. It's like what Stephen Covey says, you must begin with the end in mind. Now, let's talk about that financial plan. In order to develop a financial plan, you need to, first of all, calculate your net worth. And that's really just calculating your liabilities and your assets. You want to create an annual household budget. If you don't have one, you got to get down to zero debt. And again, I don't mean pay off your mortgage or student loans, but I do mean pay off everything else. And then you really just have to look at how much capital you have access to. You got to look at your savings. If you own a home, do you have any home equity? Do you got a 401k you can borrow against or IRA? You've got to look at what you have. And then you've got to think through how you're going to cover health and disability insurance, because that's going to be a big deal, particularly if you live in and you are the sole provider of income to your household and you have children or something. You really do have to think through health and liability insurance, because if you're the sole provider of income to your household and something happens to you, and I'm not necessarily saying like hit by a bus happened to you, but I'm saying you fall down your stairs in your house and break your leg and can't work. There's a reason why disability insurance is important. I ended up having to use disability insurance when I got pregnant with my son. I ended up on bed rest for 6 months, and I was a perfectly healthy person. So you want to make sure that you have your insurances in place so that you can protect your household. And let's talk about the money and what you really need. So you've got to save money. You should be saving 20 to 40% of every paycheck in that 12 months you're planning to start your dream business. The other thing you want to do is you've got to have that emergency savings in place. Susie Orman's been talking about this for forever. You've got to have 6 to 12 months of money to operate your household in a savings account that's just for your household. But you also need to have money to live off of, which is a whole separate account, you guys. You may have to go without a paycheck for a year or two, and you've got to be financially prepared to do that. And then that first year of working capital for your business, like before your business is making any money, you got to have that money too. That's a lot of money. So you've got to start saving now. You got to start penny pinching now. Now, the other thing you've got to do is, let's say your credit is a mess and you just don't have all of these things in place that I'm talking about. Well, first of all, you got to get your credit report, look at what the credit scores are, and then if you don't currently have a budget, track your expenses for a month and just look for ways that you can cut back. There's a lot of you that go to Starbucks every day, or maybe you're a Dunkin' Donuts person, or, maybe you're always downloading movies on demand. There's plenty of places you can tighten your belt and save money. You may even want to consider hiring a debt consultant if your stuff is really, really bad. But start using a budget and just cut out unnecessary expenses. By the way, drinks are much less expensive when you pour them yourself. So invite people over to your house instead of going to the bars, right? The other thing I want you guys to think about too is you must shop around for a business banking relationship. Your personal bank and your business bank should be different banks. And the reason why, you guys, is because businesses fail, and they fail far too often, and you don't want your business bank in the same bank as your personal bank, because if you have a line of credit or something like that and you default on it, they will seize your personal assets to cover your line of credit for your business. So do business with separate banks. Now, what are some of the basic startup costs that you may have? Rent is number one. But listen, I believe in being a spare room tycoon. So work out of your house as long as you can. Don't be the first thing you do, go out and sign a lease for a professional office space. You don't need it, so don't do it. But if you're doing a retail business, you do need it. So you just make sure you really need it before you take on that expense, because that's a big expense. And usually landlords want you to sign a 5 to 10 year lease. So you've got to be careful. You've got to have your marketing budget, business licenses, business insurance. You've got to have equipment, inventory. Then you're going to have other expenses like payroll, transportation, shipping costs, your phones and utilities, and you're going to have professional services like your accountant and your lawyer. And you should never sign anything that a lawyer does not review. Now, how much money do you typically think you need to start? Take a wild guess. Average business needs $25,000 to start. If you are starting a franchise business, triple that number, $75,000. So this is a lot of money, and this is bare bones. So you really do have to have some resources to start a business. Even if you're going to start an e-commerce business, you're going to have to invest in a really, really good website with really good firewall protection and stuff, because you've got to look credible on the internet, and there's a lot of competition out there. So you might spend $5,000 to $10,000 on your e-commerce website if you do it right. So that's what I mean by the kind of money you need to have in place to launch your dream business. Now, where do you find business ideas? Well, obviously, you can buy an existing business. And why are existing businesses great? Well, because if you buy an existing business, the one thing they have is cash flow. They already have customers. But you might also be buying somebody else's problem. So make sure you do your homework and research about why these people are selling their business. Internet startup is great. There's lots of e-commerce businesses out here. You can also be an infopreneur or coach. You could sell what you know. You can expand a hobby into a business. One of the things you can also do is look at the supply chain at your job. Is there something your company is outsourcing that you could take on as a business and walk out the door with your customer, with your employer as your very first client? And certainly you could look at franchises. And franchises do about 10% better than businesses that people start organically. So you may want to consider that. And food franchises do better than anything else. But franchises are very expensive. And if you sign a franchise agreement, you need to make sure that you have a franchise attorney look at it. Your cousin that is an attorney is not the right attorney to look at a franchise agreement, because franchise agreements are some of the scariest contracts you'll ever see in your life. So you need to make sure that somebody who knows what they're looking at is assisting you. Now, these are some things that you want to consider when you're considering your business idea or anything else. You want to, first of all, make sure that you actually have the time, experience, and money, or know where to get it, to pursue this business. Then you want to make sure that you do sort of what I call a relevancy check. You want to make sure that you're not going into a market that has been exhausted or saturated. For example, even if you're going to be an Avon lady, and there's 6 other Avon ladies in your neighborhood, the market is saturated for you, or 6 other ladies that sell Avon at your church or at your junior league. That means the market's saturated, so you've got to look at it. But you also need to look and see, are you going up against a massively dominant competitor like Microsoft? You got to have a whole bunch of money to come up with a product that could put Microsoft out of business. So you've got to be realistic about where you are versus where you want to go. And then you've got to look at whether or not this business is going to be relevant in 3 to 5 years. Are you going into a business that's growing, or are you going into a business that's shrinking? And then you've got to look at the industry trends and see what's going on. Is technology changing your industry? Make sure you understand as much as you can about the industry that you want to go into. Now, there's all kinds of different basic business models. You can start a business from scratch, start an internet business, buy a business, or buy a franchise. It really comes down to one of those 4. Now, when it comes to marketing, this is what I want you to think about when it comes to your marketing plan. You really need to think through Who's going to buy from you and why? That's really what marketing is. Who is buying from you and why are they buying from you? So your marketing plan should really talk about your understanding of the market, who's your customer, what is your secret sauce? What is your moonwalk? What is it that makes your business special? Who's your competition? What is your pricing strategy going to be? And then what's your marketing budget? Too often people market with what's left at the end of the month. I think your marketing budget has to be a top line expense. You really have to think through how much you're going to have monthly to invest in your marketing. Now, I want to give you guys some resources because I told you guys that every small business owner needs a plan. Well, here's the thing. Get you some business plan software to do it. Don't sit in front of your computer with a blank screen like, oh, God, I got to write this business plan. Use some business plan software. There's some really great free business plan software called enloop.com, ENLLOP.com. If you rather use a book to write your business plan, one of my favorite business planning books right now is Lean Business Planning by Tim Berry. He's actually the founder of Business Plan Pro software, but he is also a brilliant MBA professor, and he wrote this book called Lean Business Planning, and I think it's well worth looking at. Now, most of the time, if you use business plan software to develop your business plan, you should also take a business plan course to finish it because usually the financials are really tough. So you want to get someone to walk you through that so that you can finish it. So that you can actually finish your business plan. And the other thing I want to say about business plans is a lot of times people go through the exercise of writing a business plan and then they treat it like a historical document, not to be looked at again. Do not do that. I want you to actually use your business plan to run your business. In fact, your business plan should be reviewed and updated every 2 to 3 months in the first few years of your business, just to make sure that your business is on the right track and you're following your own plan that you laid out. Now, we already talked about why businesses fail, so I don't know why we have that slide in there again, but that's okay. I promised you guys that you would have an action plan for success, so here we go. The first thing is I really do want you guys to invest in a copy of my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. Literally, it's a $16 investment that will save you years of hard-learned lessons in your business. I also want you to start thinking through your life plan and lay out your personal goals. What do you really want and why do you want it? I want you to evaluate your personal financial picture, and I want you to clarify your business concept. Get real clear about what business you're going into. And lastly, I want you to pick out a theme song. And this is going to be your fight song, your charge up song. This is going to be music that every time you play it, it makes you feel great. It makes you smile because there's going to be many hard days in your business. And you're going to need something to pump you up before you go into that meeting or before you get on that phone call and you know that you've got to close that customer. You need something to pump you up. And I believe that every superhero needs a theme song, and small business owners are superheroes. So get yourself a personal theme song so that you can have that extra little bit of motivation to help you in this journey that we call entrepreneurship. Now, if you want to contact me, I am really easy to find on the internet. Certainly my name is Melinda Emerson, but my nickname, Small Biz Lady, is how I'm known everywhere on the internet. My website is succeedasyourboss.com. I saw someone tweet earlier that they had trouble downloading the 2 free chapters of my book. Well, if you go to succeedasyourboss.com, you can click it right from the homepage of my website and you can get the 2 free chapters that way. Every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, I host a small biz chat on Twitter where I answer people's small business questions live every Wednesday. So please come and hang out with me. You can certainly connect with me on LinkedIn. And by the way, I love to get recommendations from people who have attended my webinars and learned a thing or two. You can always connect with me on Google as well. And please like my Small Biz Lady fan page on Facebook. So these are all the ways that you can contact me so you have no excuses. I am everywhere on the internet, so all you have to do, if you forget my name, just Google Small Biz Lady and you will find me. And at this point, I am happy to answer some of your questions because we have roughly about 10 minutes. So I'm happy to answer your questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Melinda. I also want to mention for those people that were having trouble with the download, not only can you obviously very easily go to succeedasyourownboss.com, it is also linked in the attachments tab of this webinar. So if you just click over to that attachments tab that I mentioned at the beginning, you should be able to find it there as well. So, not wasting any more time, we have quite a few questions already. And so one of the attendees was asking, Melinda, where can you find information about trends in your industry?
Well, first of all, if there's a great business library, if you can go to the public library in your city and you find the business librarian in that library, that person can point you to information about your industry. But you also should join your trade association in your industry and attend your trade association conferences, and that'll be a great way for you to get information about your industry as well.
Great. We have another attendee who's asking about the issue you mentioned earlier about sole proprietorship. He is asking, why do you believe that sole proprietors are so dangerous? If you understand your business risks and steer clear of those, there's no issue. I'm an attorney and set up businesses all the time.
Well, I'm going to professionally disagree with him. I believe sole proprietorships are dangerous because you have no protection if something goes wrong. If you are a hairdresser and you color people's hair and you accidentally color somebody's hair orange, they can sue you, and they would be able to sue you for your personal assets because they are not legally protected by a business entity. So I just believe, as a general rule, everybody needs to have an actual business, either an LLC or an S Corp. You certainly should consult your accountant before you decide what type of legal entity you want to be. But I just believe that sole proprietorships they just put your personal assets at risk, and people don't have to have a real issue to sue you. So it's my belief that just be careful and go ahead and incorporate your business. It costs less than $400 to get incorporated, and it's just worth it for peace of mind.
Great. Thank you for your perspective on that, Melinda. We have another attendee who's asking about talking points with new clients. She says she has her first meeting with a potential client, and she's wondering what main points she should cover.
Well, if you have a meeting with a client, I'm assuming it's because they're interested in doing business with you. So if I were you, I would come to the meeting with a capabilities presentation ready to go, maybe 5 to 7 slides about your capabilities, your background. If you don't have any customers yet, I would talk about the last job you had and the types of things you did in that job. And that's what I would be prepared to talk about. But more than that, I would make sure that you knew from your client what they were prepared to talk about. Are they ready to do business with you? Are they just kicking tires? Are they talking to you? Is there a proposal they're about to ask you for? You need to know why your client wants to meet with you. That's the most important thing about any business meeting, because otherwise a lot of people will waste your time out here. So you got to be very careful about who you give your time to.
Great. So we have another question. So obviously, you have great advice for people who are thinking of starting a new business. We have someone asking, if I've already started a business and didn't follow your steps, how do I recover and try to get where I need to be?
You know what? This is a very common question that I'm asked. Listen, it's never too late to have a do-over, right? Every day we get a do-over. If you know that you started your business and you didn't do things in the right way, it's never too late to right the ship. I suggest you grab a copy of my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, and really walk through the things, that you didn't do the right way and get them straight, and get your accounting system set up, get your pricing model set up, make sure you know exactly who your niche target customer is, and live to fight another day. It's okay. I learned all this stuff the hard way, remember? I didn't just start out knowing everything I know about business. So you can always reinvent. Don't worry about it. Matter of fact, I have a conference every October called Reinvention Weekend. And if you go to reinvention16.com, I help people right the ship and restart their business if they started the wrong way, excuse me. So if you want to come and hang out with us, my early bird special actually goes until July 15th. So if you go to reinvention16.com, and there's actually a link to my conference in the attachments and links section, but it's called Reinvention Weekend, and it was designed for people just like you.
Great. You talked a little bit earlier about the money, how much money small businesses need to start. So we have a question related to that. It says, how can I determine exactly how much money I actually need to start my business? And can a SCORE mentor help me with that?
Well, absolutely. But this person, I see this question here, and this person said that they already work in a child care center. I would ask the people, if you're already the director of a child care center, ask to see their budget. That's not an unreasonable question if you're a director of one of the centers. I would ask the people you work for, not in a, hey, I'm about to start a business to compete with you way, but just ask for some information. There's lots of courses. I don't know what city you're in, but there are courses you can take on how to start a child care center as well. So, but it's not out of line with what I told you. I mean, you've got to get a lease, you've got to get equipment, but there's extra certifications and things you've got to get. So, I mean, I believe my $25,000 to $75,000 range is not out of the ballpark for you. But if you already work for a daycare center, find out what the budget is.
Great. I think we have time for about one more question or two. And
okay.
I think this question here is pretty relevant to a lot of our audience members. This person says, there are so many tools and technology available to support my business. What is the best way to find the right ones? I'm afraid of spending too much time or money on the wrong tools.
Well, this is why you need to have an existing entrepreneur in your kitchen cabinet of advisors. Ask another entrepreneur what they're using. Ask your mentors what they're using and try it for yourself. I mean, you're right. There is a ton of stuff out here, and there's a lot of ways, you can get really stressed out. So definitely ask other entrepreneurs for referrals. That's what I do.
Great. This is related, but we have someone asking you to mention again that business plan software you recommended.
Oh, yes. The free business plan software that I recommended was enloop.com, ENLOOP.com. It is free. They have a paid version, but you probably can do whatever you need to do with their free version. I also see here that someone asked what time is Small Biz Chat on Wednesdays. It is 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so we do it 8 to 9 p.m. every Wednesday, and I've been doing it for 7 years, answering people's small business questions. And yes, this presentation is being recorded, so you can definitely get access to it later. And I see one last big question that I can't really say. I'm an executive director of a nonprofit, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to hear expert advice on a small business. I'm learning more about operating our nonprofit from a business perspective. Do you offer expertise in nonprofits? Absolutely. Here's the deal. A nonprofit, the difference between a nonprofit and a business is that you file your taxes differently. And in the case of a nonprofit, you have donors and customers, but you've got to generate revenue like everybody else. You've got to watch your bottom line. You've got to make sure that you're marketing your services so that people know who you are and what you do. So the information is extremely relevant to a nonprofit audience as it is to a business audience.
Great. Well, it's just about time for us to wrap up. Everyone, if you have more questions, please find Melinda on Twitter or any of the other ways that she mentioned you could contact her. And thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to check out Manta's other webinars, which are linked in the Attachments tab. And you can also find a wealth of advice and information on a variety of small business topics at manta.com/resources. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and thanks again, everyone, for attending. And thank you, Melinda, so much for presenting.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Ivy. This is a great topic, and I really hope that I've been able to assist your audience.